Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic, less known classic. This is episode number 3288. Doubleshot number 3182. Those of you curious what that sound was, that was myself falling off my calendar again. Yes, I'm going to have to finally keep it there. Okay, so we have now we have two IDW books. One is Star Trek, the other is Godzilla. First we have is Star Trek, The Next Generation, The Hive. And this is written by one of the guys behind Star Trek, Brendan Braga. Yep. I don't think he worked, I think he worked on Next Generation. He mostly worked on like Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise. I think he worked a little bit of Deep Space Nine. But I think, like in the case of DC Fontana with that one mini-series for the original one, which he worked on the original series, I think this may have been Brendan Braga's only comic book he's ever written. Now, Brendan Braga himself would later do a season 24. So, the co-art writers of this book the script is done by Terry Manalis, who I think also wrote for the series 2, and Travis Fickett. The artwork's done by Joe Careni. Mostly put, this is basically about the Borg. Yep. Locutus is depicted this book as sort of a king. And this is basically set, I am presuming a lot of this main story, with the exception of stuff in the future, which apparently is set 500 years later, where somehow Picard is part of the Borg collective. Again, for some reason. So, this is set presumably at the events of Nemesis because they mention the Titan. And the fact that, well, Riker is in charge of it, obviously. He's the captain. And Data's not here in the main story until he's brought back in the future. Apparently, like in the story, the reason why he brought him back is because the Borg is suddenly the Acer Institute. Now, in the future of how Picard became Locutus, again, that's not really very clear. At several points in the book, it seems like he's about to become Locutus, and of course, having a version of Borg Queen. At one point, actually having the Queen wear a different attire than when you see in the live-action stuff. Where the head is still the same, but they have like a little more parts to it, per se. It's basically a heavy Borg story. But this, of course, is not set in the main timeline of the TV show because of what happened in Star Trek Picard. Also, this book does feature something that Picard never brought up how the heck this happened. Picard meeting Seven of Nine, where they meet, they have a conversation, and then she decides to rejoin the collective to be undercover agent. Which I'm like, oh yeah, and she would maintain her personality thanks to filters put in her body. Which I'm like, why the heck would basically the writer of this book have her go back to collective for? It makes no freaking sense. Also, here's somewhat by weird coincidence you might find interesting. Did you know in real life Brendan Braga actually dated Jerry Ryan? Yes, seriously. Yeah, these two were in a relationship. Maybe he couldn't resist basically the fact that Jerry Ryan is a very beautiful, well, at the time, a very beautiful woman. He couldn't resist. And some say this could have basically, like, from what I could tell, basically the relationship, from what I've heard, wasn't negatively received, but it seemed obvious. But the thing is, at the time, basically, when he was starting Enterprise, they were still in a relationship, and basically, the actor Ben Chakotay dared him to write a scene where Seven and Chakotay kiss, and he took up on that dare. He actually did it. Very interesting miniseries, this one. It seemed like with this one, oh, this is in the collective. That's before the whole thing with Picard. It's overall a really good miniseries. And I definitely can check it out. I give it a 10 out of 10. Next up is Godzilla. Here, there. Here there be dragons. Here we go. Here it is. This is actually the first of 3 miniseries of this name. This, I think, is set of the events of Godzilla in Hell, where he escapes, and him and the rest of the monsters in the Toho universe. By the way, this book is written by Frank Terry. Artwork by Inka Merdam. Basically, the story of this book is that Godzilla has gone back in time to the time of Golden Age of piracy. And there's also this cult, this dragon cult, apparently worships Godzilla. Now, by the way, all English people. Now, the thing is, this is kind of weird given the fact that Godzilla should not be in this time period, but he is. I guess that the writers, the people at IDW probably figured because they have the Godzilla license, hey, can we depict Godzilla for something that's not modern day him destroying cities? I guess Toho was like, you got my approval. So Frank Terry takes Godzilla back to the 16th century and have him basically take on pirates. And make like a freaking Kraken a lot of the story. Heck, even bring in like Hedorah, the crab monster, basically a lot of the classic Godzilla monsters. With the exception of Mechagodzilla, because it doesn't make any sense to have something that's technology based in the past. Basically, all the classic monsters are here. And of course, it sets up the next 2 sequels. Yes, believe it or not, this book had 2 sequels. And the 3rd one's still being published right now. Yes, seriously. Overall, this book was fantastic. Like, if you love Godzilla, check this book out. And I met Frank Terry, cool guy. You can definitely tell what he writes. You can definitely tell he's a fan of Godzilla. You can tell he loved writing this book. Yep. Well, that's pretty much it for the particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up, the greatest demon lord reborn is difficult nobody. Okay, next video. Bye.